Join me now to chew on this, Vivek Ramaswamy, former 2024 presidential candidate, co-founder of Strive Asset Management, author of Nations of Victim. Vivek, welcome back, my friend. A word on this. I mean, Texas is going to stop the invasion no matter what these courts say, and they should.
I agree with you, Larry, but I think that Texas has actually called the bluff of the federal government here. Either on one hand, as Texas has argued, their policy is consistent with the federal government's to say that you can't be in this country or the state of Texas illegally, and they're consistent. Or it's as the federal government argues that those are not consistent, but if they're not consistent, that proves and smokes out that the federal government has abandoned enforcing the rule of law as it pertains to our borders. So either way, Texas has revealed the folly. Either the policies are consistent. Biden says out of one side of his mouth that we actually do have a southern border. All Texas is saying is the same thing, in which case there's no conflict. Or if there is a conflict, as the federal government claims, then that proves the reality, which is that the federal government has abandoned the existence of our southern border altogether. Either way, it spells the same conclusion. We need a new president in charge of actually enforcing the rule of law in this country. And that's the best border policy of all, Larry.
Yeah, I mean, if Biden would do his job, right, instead of an open border policy, we've had a border policy, then Texas wouldn't have to do this, but Biden won't do it. So Greg Abbott, somebody's got to do it. So he's doing it. I'm all for it. I mean, you know what? Down there, they're just trying to protect themselves. All right, I agree with you. But I got a couple things for you today. We love having you. I like to talk issues with you, you know, not politics. I talk issues. There's one, I don't know what you think about this. There's a judge in Illinois who now is saying that illegal immigrants can carry guns, can own guns and carry guns. Now, I'm in favor of the Second Amendment, Lord knows, but if you're an illegal, you're breaking the law, how can you be carrying a gun? And second of all, most of these illegals, or all these illegals, they've never been vetted. We don't know where they come from. We don't know if they have a criminal record or not. But I was just curious, should we allow illegals to carry guns?
The Second Amendment applies to citizens of the United States. But the ultimate irony here, Larry, is as you see certain states, the irony is in Illinois of all places, places like Chicago, infringing on Second Amendment rights on a regular basis, now suddenly selectively expanding its consideration of the Second Amendment for people who have entered this country illegally. You can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. The reality is we're inadequately protecting Second Amendment rights for the people who actually have them, citizens of the United States, while inventing rights to bear arms, which actually doesn't exist for no one who has a right to be in this country in the first place. And people have to understand how the Bill of Rights works. Every American has certain birthrights attached to being an American, but nobody has an automatic right to be an American without going through that right, correct process in the first place. That's the basic principle we have to understand. We have a Constitution that guarantees rights to American citizens, but not everybody has the right to be an American citizen. That's why we have basic border policies that need to be enforced and need to be followed. And it's a sad state, Larry, that I have to say what is obvious. Today, it would seem foreign today in this country. What I'm stating are obvious constitutional principles that we need to revive.
Well, you need to keep saying them, Vivek. We're counting on you. You need to keep saying them. All right, I got another one for you. So we know President Trump is in a pickle in New York because of this crazy lawfare and these unbelievable fines and so forth and so on. So on this show, last night and the night before, we've been talking about the Eighth Amendment. The Eighth Amendment says excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. And in fact, a couple years ago, it was none other than Ruth Bader Ginsburg who upheld this excessive fines issue. And the excessive fines clause should kick in here. In other words, I'm suggesting that Mr. Trump get his people to go around the state, the city of New York and the state, go directly to federal court, directly to the Supremes, and have all these crazy fines and building seizures and whatnot, have it nullified because of the Eighth Amendment. This is an excessive fines clause. What do you think about the Eighth Amendment?
I spot on agree with that, Larry. It's dead on. The Eighth Amendment was created for cases like this one. Excessive bail and excessive fines. Mentioned back to back. It was mentioned for a case like this that's designed for an aggressive prosecutor that, by the way, is weaponizing the law to advance a political promise that she made while running for office. So I could see no better paradigmatic case than this one. And that proves what's at stake here. I mean, it's sad what they're doing to President Trump. It's disgusting. And I think it is honorable that he, as one man, is still standing up to it as best he can. But this proves that this isn't just about Donald Trump. It is about every American, because if they can do this to the 45th president of the United States, somebody who's running and I believe successfully will be the 47th president of the United States, then they can do it to anybody in the United States. And that Eighth Amendment was written for a reason. Historically, it's come up in the context of debates about the death penalty. But the reality is most of that Eighth Amendment relates to cases involving excessive bail, excessive fines, the $454 million ruling here in this case by a politicized Letitia James in a case where not a single victim was harmed. Every alleged victim made money from doing interactions with Donald Trump. And even people who weren't just ordinary consumers but sophisticated financial institutions. For that to be the bail in this kind of case is ridiculous, is offensive to our founding fathers. And our founding fathers would agree, as I think the Supreme Court would today. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, even if she were on the court, still would agree with it as well.
Yeah.
This is exactly the case for which the Eighth Amendment was met.
I mean,
and he should use that argument.
Jonathan Turley called it mob law. But the other thing is, Vivek, look, you're the lawyer and not me, but the 14th Amendment, which was passed after the Civil War, of course, but it basically said federal law can supersede state law. And in those days, the issue was slavery. I get that. But that can be used now. In fact, Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Scalia and some others used that a couple of years ago to enforce the Eighth Amendment. And I just think that's the way out for Mr. Trump. I mean, just go past all these crazy people in New York.
Absolutely, it applies to state overreach as it does to federal overreach. This is about protecting individual rights, and Donald Trump's rights are included because that's what protects every American as well. So I agree with you, Larry, and I'm hoping that we see a victory on that front.
All right, Vivek Ramaswamy, thank you.